Based on our decades' experience serving internationally trained professionals, together with our partners, G-TAC is proud to offer career-focused trainings. The goal of those trainings is to help skilled workers stay abreast of the latest and emerging labor market demands in Canada. Explore career options and the pros and cons. Expand your professional networks, and therefore make informed decisions and fast-track your career. Different from academic trainings, there are 3 key features of G-TAC's career-focused trainings that you can benefit from. 1. The trainings are all designed by industry insiders, along with inputs and feedbacks from hiring employers we worked with, and delivered by experienced industry experts. 2. The training contents are focused more on case studies and practical tips and tactics, not on theories. As a result, you can apply the knowledge and industry experts. 2. The training content information in their job interviews, and quickly and successfully take on tasks when you are newly hired. 3. The trainings are short-term and low-cost, with possibility of job referrals. One-on-one career coaching is available to help you find out career path that can make the most of your experience and passion. Please visit G-TAC's website to find more details. Grow your career, G-TAC can help.
Oh, hey everyone. We are just waiting for our guests to. We're just waiting for our guests to come online. Give me 2 seconds here. There you go. So just today, just bear with us for a few seconds. We're just waiting for our guests from Robert Half to come online, and then as soon as she come online, we'll get started. Okay.
I'm so sorry about that. I should have messaged you yesterday, Song.
Okay. No, it's fine. So, Bibiana, thank you very much for coming online.
Hi,
So,
Sean.
we're gonna get started right away.
Amazing.
So, thank you everyone, ladies and gentlemen, for waiting for us. And we are now going to share the screens shortly, and then we're gonna get started right away. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are around the world, across the country. My name is Shaw Kwan. I am the Vice President of Global Outreach and a senior career consultant here at G-TAC. And once again, it is our pleasure to welcome Bibiana, our old friend, I would say. I mean, I should say a very well-acquainted friend. I shouldn't use the word old, you know. I know that's kind of sensitive. Anyway, welcome to today's webinar. Now, before we get started, we are going to just go through a quick email the screen. So I'm waiting for G-TAC tech support to share the screen. There you go. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. Okay. So good. So I actually have the control of the screen, so that's perfect. Good. Okay. So for those of you that's joining us for the first time or very new to G-TAC, which stands for Global Talent Alliance Canada, and we're here to provide a lot of information about all the latest labor market information and anything and everything you need to find your career or to start your career here in Canada. And today our presentation is done by through Robert Half, done by Bibiana Chalansi. I'm not sure, is the L
You said
there?
it perfectly. Yeah, L
Okay.
there. You said it perfectly, Sean.
Chalansi, yeah. She's a recruiting manager and also a very senior associate with Robert Half. So she'll be presenting to you about the various things that are about the latest job market and what Robert Half can do for you. I know it's an extremely volatile time right now. There's a lot of uncertainties. Federal public servant is on strike, and the inflation is out of control. And there's people doing a lot of company reducing their staff, etc. So this what makes what G-TAC has been always doing all these years very helpful. Is the fact is we're here to trying to help you with all the tools that you need about the latest market information. We're trying to invite various employers to come and talk about what are their needs, and also sometimes they even provide some of the job that's actually exclusive to our platform that they haven't make announcement yet. So all this to say is thank you again for joining us for our weekly webinar. And I see that there's a lot of people coming on board online right now. So please let us know where you're listening from. And for those of you that's new to G-TAC, as we are Canada's host of Canada's largest online job fair. We have done 13 times already. The last one took place just 2 weeks ago on April the 4th and 5th. And the 14th one will take place in September 26th and 27th later this year. We also partner with various municipalities and provincial governments, as well as over 400 employer partners across Canada. So since mid 2016 until now, we have delivered over 800 live webinars. So we're really proud of that achievement, and we still working hard to try to bring you various webinars for 2023 that are relevant to your career here in Canada. Our schedule for April, it's all listed here. Of course, you have any questions, or if you want the latest information, follow us on LinkedIn. Just type globaltalentalliancecanada.com. This course will start on May the 6th. Our PSW refresher course will start on May 6th. And our next accounting class will start next Monday, May 1st. Okay. So all of these, I will type in the contact information should you require more information, or you can visit our website at g-tac.ca. And of course, we do provide one-on-one professional, customized one-on-one career counseling for our clients. Doesn't matter where you are around the world or across the country, because this is delivered online. Okay, and we can also I would say help you create your specific career transition plan when you come to Canada. So, okay. So all this to say is please stay in touch with us on LinkedIn, Global Talent Alliance Canada. And we are gonna go now to Bibiana. Bibiana, we're gonna pass the control to you. Put your
Okay,
mouse
sounds good.
over the main screen. The minute you can start changing screen, then you can start.
Okay,
You
perfect.
done
Sounds good. And I can go back and forth?
Yes, yes. What you can do is you can use the arrow key on your keyboard or
Okay,
just use the
perfect.
mouse.
All right, sounds good. I'll use the arrow key then.
Okay.
All
Are
right.
you gonna go to change now?
No, oh, yes, I am now. Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
perfect then.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
so
So,
much.
Bibiana, the mic is yours.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you so much, firstly, to Shaw and Song and the G-TAC team. Honestly, like you're helping out your clients in this capacity is a huge difference maker and just really allows you guys to all be equipped as you're exploring new opportunities. I also particularly like that statement that you had in your opening slides where you say the best investment that you can make is in yourself. And even through this, this 45 minutes or however much time we have together, I'm hoping if you guys have any questions, please feel free to answer them because I'm here for you. So if you want to ask any questions, please make sure that you have them prepared or send them in the chat. I like these conversations to be as interactive as possible. That way you guys are getting a lot more value and a lot more personalized value too. So essentially today, what I'm hoping to do is just have a chat with you guys and talk a bit about tips for landing a job using a recruiter. So today I'll talk a bit about Robert Half, which is the recruiting firm that I work with, as well as what to expect while working with a recruiter. I'll help you navigate through the process in terms of expectations and what you need to do from your end, as well as just talk to you a bit about how effective working with a recruiter is and how this can help you propel your career and your next steps as you transition to the Canadian market. So to start, I will tell you a bit about Robert Half. So Robert Half, we are one of the biggest, honestly, longest standing recruiting firms globally. So we've got locations all across the world, including, Asia, North Africa, the Middle East, as well as, of course, North America and South America. So we've got different locations, and our major areas of function is accounting, finance, I would say anything within the office operations space, so administrative roles. We've got a legal division, as well as a team that works on procurement and project management type roles. And we basically have a slew of different roles that we work on with various clients, where we've got a lot of trusted clients. So we're happy to match candidates with the various clients that we partner with too. In terms of working with a recruiter, before I dive into this, I'll just talk to you a bit about my personal experience. So I was once a candidate of Robert Half's, and at that point, I didn't even know what to expect working with a recruiter, and I didn't even know that there was actually this capacity of support that you can get as you're looking to find a new opportunity. So working with a recruiter is definitely a value add opportunity for you too. And you can really get a lot of good insight on what's going on in the market, as well as insight on what's going on with your own particular specialization or your area of experience or the roles you've had. So as noted on the slide, we've got a huge database of different companies that we work with. We've got hundreds of roles posted at any given time across all of our various locations across Canada. We've got various work arrangements. So it could be part-time, it could be full-time. We still have some remote roles, although those are slowly starting to die down a little bit. As well as various arrangements depending on what you're looking for, contract, permanent. We offer all of that. There's also tons of different benefits from a perspective of your learning and just being able to support you and provide you with advice on what to expect as you're going through your job search, as well as the online learning resources where you're able to do online courses through this portal that we have. We've got hundreds of different courses. If you wanted to strengthen like your QuickBooks experience or your experience with Excel, we've got online courses. And my favorite point in the slide is that there is no cost to you for being a candidate while working with a recruiting firm. So it definitely is very advantageous to you. So next I'll talk to you about tips to help you work with a recruiter. And sorry, House, if you don't mind, I will answer questions towards the end, but please definitely add questions in the chat box too. I don't know if that was a question, but I definitely will be answering questions towards the end too. So the number one tip that I would say when you're working with a recruiter is have a good understanding of what your own career goals are. So I'm sure you're at a stage where you're trying to transition into the Canadian market, right? So understand how that would look for you, understanding what you did back home and how that would compare to the Canadian market, right? Which ties in very well to know what you want. So I meet hundreds of candidates and any given week, you know, at any given time. So what I would suggest is that when you're meeting with a recruiter, the more you know about yourself, the easier it is for us to help you find your next opportunity. So, you know, if you come in and say, listen, I'm flexible, I can have any job, that makes our job a lot harder. And we don't know what exactly to call you about. So knowing that, hey, back home, I was an accountant, and I want to do something similar, you know, I want to do either accounting clerk or an accountant role, financial analyst, that just helps us to also understand where you are. And part of knowing what you want, it would also be understanding what your salary expectations are. I would suggest that you do download the Robert Half app. This will just give you a good overview of what types of roles we have available. Doing both the app as well as signing up online will give you these benefits. So you'll be able to see what roles are available, as well as get a better insight or better idea of what the different roles pay salary-wise. That way, when you do meet with a recruiter, you know what your salary expectations are. So downloading the app will allow you to get alerts to the various roles that we have. And when you sign up online and submit your resume, you're also able to get any job alerts that we have. I should just put this as a note. Unfortunately, if you're not already in Canada with a work authorization, we're not able to help you. So just make sure that by the time you're coming to the recruiter, you already have your PR or any sort of work authorization that will allow you to start a job almost immediately. So let's talk a bit about the recruiting process. So it's pretty straightforward. So you go online or we work together, you search our jobs. If you find any jobs that are of interest to you, you can connect with a recruiter or connect with the recruiter you're working with just to talk to them about the role. Like, hey, listen, I saw a financial analyst role posted. I just wanted to see if my profile can qualify for that. That will be a good conversation because your recruiter will understand the types of roles you're interested in. And secondly, you're able to show a proactive approach to you looking for jobs. Because as much as we want to find you a job, we also need, the candidates we're working with to take initiative. That way we're working together for the common goal of finding you a job. So once you find the job, you say, I'm interested in it, we as recruiters will then submit your profile to the company that you're interested in. And if they are interested in meeting with you, we set up the interview. Fingers crossed, everything goes well, you interview well, you like the people, they like you, and then we get to the negotiation stage, which we help handle. So a lot of times too, we want to avoid being lowballed, right? Sometimes when you're getting your first Canadian job, you may be a bit more flexible in salary. And what a recruiter does and what's beneficial from our perspective is we're able to reel it back in and make sure you're getting paid what market value is. So we want to make sure we're helping out with handling any negotiations. So this is probably one of the most important parts of this presentation. And this is really dealing with resumes. So, I find a lot of times people send out tons and tons of resumes and they're wondering like, why aren't I getting any calls back? The resume now more than ever, having a strong resume is so pertinent in order to get to that next level of securing an interview. Unfortunately, without a strong resume, you won't even be able to get an interview, right? So that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a job search. The whole point is for you to have continuous traction from your resume so that you're meeting people and you can share your experience with them. So when you're putting together your resume, the number one thing I would say is keep it succinct. So basically keeping it straight to the point, keeping it, I would say, emphasize more on quality over quantity. So as opposed to having a 5-page resume with everything you've done, make sure that it's more condensed and focusing on maybe your achievements and also focusing on your core duties that match what the job description that you're looking for are requiring. The second point is you make sure that you list your positions that you've had over your career in reverse chronological order. And that means your more recent experience today is put at the top. So whatever you're doing presently is put at the top of your resume, and then you focus on your earlier jobs, at the bottom of your resume. So just reverse order. Another thing that I do see some of the candidates that I work with, because I do work with senior individuals, so maybe they've got 20 years of experience. So in that case, they focus mainly on their last 10 years of experience, and then put, the other experience that they had in their earlier career as line items. That can also help, like if you're doing a career transition, you want to focus more on the types of experience that you have that's relevant for the roles that you're applying for. Another key point is make sure you're focusing on your accomplishments. So if you're putting together your resume and the first part is you talking about what you did, write down 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 different accomplishments that you achieved in various roles that you had. The key here is for you to allow companies to see what the return on investment is in hiring you. So what have you accomplished? What were you able to do in your last employer for them to want to keep you, for you to be a valued employee? And why and how will that value translate into our organization? So focusing on accomplishments, if you're not a big bragger, the resume is a one time where you should brag about yourself and focus on your accomplishments. And then again, finally, make sure that you're highlighting related skills. So in today's high technology world, a lot of us recruiting firms and recruiters in general, even those working within companies, are using AI to help screen resumes, right? We get, as I mentioned, we get hundreds, not sometimes thousands of applications at any given time for various positions, right? So we try and help with the screening process by utilizing AI and doing searches. So if you're applying for a job and you don't have any related skills that the job description is requesting on your resume, chances are that you're going to be screened out. Making sure that you've got the keywords on your resume is so important, because that's what we do searches upon, right? So for instance, if I'm looking for a property accountant, I may be looking for someone with certain property accounting software experience. So those are the skills that I'm going to be searching upon on resumes. So if you're somebody who's a property accountant who's used like Yardi and that's not on your resume, you're going to be screened out from that particular opportunity. And that's what we really want to avoid. Right. Oh. Sorry about that. Okay, so next, after the resume tips, LinkedIn tips. So LinkedIn, as I'm sure a lot of you know, if you don't have LinkedIn already, LinkedIn is such a great, social professional network for you to keep job people that are looking for employees, in the know of you looking for a job. So it's a good way to keep us informed on your profile, on what you're looking for, and that you're open for opportunities. So making sure that your LinkedIn is constantly kept up to date is very important. So including what your more recent roles are. I know sometimes it's easy for you to, update it with the last role, but not with your current role. So making sure that it's updated with current skills, current roles, and, the current achievements, even if you've done education. Like, for instance, I'm doing my CHIRP. So I'm going to include on my resume that I'm doing my CHIRP. Those are on my LinkedIn rather. So those are different ways in which you can keep up to date with educational achievements, as well as promotions, any changes in roles. Maybe you did a certification, include that on your LinkedIn. Make sure that you're using a professional photo. So when we're looking at LinkedIn, that is basically a reflection of who you are. So just like how different social profiles have their own, brand to it, I would say the LinkedIn brand is more professional. So making sure that your photo is of you, avoiding things like your family photos or photos with like a Snapchat filter or anything like that. Making sure it's professional, clean background, all of those things. As a recruiter, I do look at that, and that could be a difference between whether or not I want to connect with you. Also creating a summary within your LinkedIn profile. So just a summary with overview of who you are. It's very similar to an elevator pitch, which I'm going to talk to you about later. So it's basically telling somebody looking at your profile, like in the first couple of statements, who is this person? So you can say, an accountant recently moved to Canada with strong IFRS experience, looking to join an organization where I can apply that. So just a bit of a summary of who you are, some of your skills, as well as similar to the resume, you have to ensure that you're using targeted keywords on your LinkedIn profile. So again, when we're looking for different candidates for different roles, we use tools like LinkedIn Recruiter, and those keywords on your resume will allow you to be screened in for different opportunities that we would be searching for. And then finally, ask your colleagues, ask your coworkers, ask your former boss for recommendations. So the recommendation statement section of LinkedIn is basically a good way to hear about you from people that have worked with you. So sometimes when I'm looking for candidates, I'll look at what recommendations they have. And if it's a strong recommendation, that's more of a push for me to talk to my client and say, hey, Mr. Client, I met John, and this is what some of his recommendations stated about him, and this is why you need to hire him or her. So it's definitely value add to ask people for recommendations. I always feel shy to do that, but definitely do that for your profiles. Next, I want to talk a bit about an elevator pitch. So when you come to Canada, or if you're already here, maybe you're involved in networking events, or you've gone for a couple of interviews, we think about the elevator pitch as like a 20-second overview of who you are, right? And as I said, it could be similar to what your LinkedIn summary is, but basically we call it an elevator pitch because, when you go into an elevator, you have like 10 or 20 seconds before you get to your floor. So making sure that you can concisely describe your profile within that period of time. So in my case, I would be like, hi, I'm Bibiana Chalansi, and I'm actually a recruiter, and I've been working with Robert Half for the last 5 years in senior management recruiting. And I'm currently looking for an opportunity to challenge myself further. So basically, very quickly overview who are you, right? So perfecting the elevator pitch is also another thing that I would say like everyone should individually practice, because as you could tell, like for my case with the elevator pitch, it's something I don't do often, but when you do it, you're more comfortable talking about yourself. The whole interviewing process is about talking about yourself, and some people are more comfortable talking about themselves than others. So making sure that you're comfortable with that and you're practicing the way in which you're doing it, where it can flow naturally, as well as showcase your best, your best attributes too. So next, sorry, I'm just going to have a sip. Next, I'll talk a bit about interviewing like a pro. So you've got your resume, your client says, listen, we like how the resume looked. We want to meet candidate A. So very exciting times. Now it's time to interview like a pro. as important as it is to, kind of make that stand out during the resume section, it's even more important to stand out during the interview section, because now the client has drilled down from 100 candidates to their top 10. So what are you going to do to stand out, right? During the pandemic, we did go into more virtual interviewing. So a lot of us are, doing our first round interviews over Zoom or over Skype or various technologies. So we want to make sure that we're well prepared from that perspective. So that will include testing your technology prior to the call. I always say to the candidates I work with, test it with somebody like one of your friends or one of your family members, because sometimes when you test it alone, it may seem to work, but maybe the other side may not hear you clearly, or your picture is not well, not very visible, or your camera setting doesn't look as bright or as pleasant as it should be. So making sure you're testing your technology with somebody will definitely be value add. Before, make sure you're joining the meeting early, just so that you're not scrambling in the last minutes, trying to make sure that you've got everything. It's a good way for you to go in, just be calm, mentally think about what you'd be looking to achieve out of the conversation, which is which of your skill sets you're trying to showcase in this interview. Just like any regular interview, I would say focusing on your dressing is very important. Again, over the pandemic, we're working from home, so people got a little bit laissez-faire, right? So maybe you're not always in a suit and tie, but I would say when it comes to your interviews, make sure that you're setting the best impression, even in the first meeting. So overdressing with a suit is never a bad thing. I've never met a candidate who's in a suit and I'm like, oh, don't want to work with them. I'm more like, wow, thank you so much for taking the initiative. Even if it's just like a suit from the top up, who cares, right? Just making sure that you're dressing right and making sure that you're presenting professionally. Another thing that I would say is making video eye contact. So as you can kind of tell a difference when I'm reading my notes and then when I'm looking directly into the camera. So making sure that you're actually speaking to the camera, because from an audience perspective, it looks like if you're speaking towards me and you're not looking down, looking to the side and all of that stuff, right? And it just kind of gives that more personal touch to it from an audience perspective. Be aware of body language. And whenever I read the slide, I always think of myself because I talk with my hands a lot. So being aware of that is very, very important. So making sure that you're smiling, your body language isn't slumped, or you're not looking defeated. So sitting up straight, all those little things, as trivial as it seems, they make a difference as you're going through the interview. And finally, being aware of your background and surroundings, especially with these video interviews. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a clean surrounding or a clean background. And again, may sound like minute, but if, say, for instance, you're interviewing in your bedroom, make sure you blur the screen, or make sure you've got a backdrop that can hide if it's your laundry or whatever is in the background, because there's nothing worse from an interviewer's perspective than to see everything going on in your background. So just be aware of those things. So next, I would also suggest that you practice some commonly asked interview questions. So some of those questions include, tell us about yourself. What's something positive your boss would say about you? Why do you want to work for our company? So again, all of these questions, again, you can look online, for commonly asked interview questions, or you can look for commonly asked interview questions in your field of interest. And that way you're just practicing that flow of talking about yourself and practicing telling people about yourself. And I would suggest, again, buddying up with somebody in your family or one of your friends and just seeing if you can do a mock interview with them. Hey, tell me, do you mind critiquing me? Tell me, if I was not sounding confident in some areas, or how did I do in this certain area? I find sometimes it's been, interviewing is like riding a bike. If you haven't done it for a while, it could be a little bit shaky, but then once you get the flow of it, it just becomes more natural. So making sure that you're in the know and you're just in that comfortable mindset to talk about yourself, and as well as practice these commonly asked interview questions. Looking at the last point where it says, why do you want to work for our company? this just ties into the fact that before any interview, you should make sure that you're doing research on the company. There is nothing worse than when you're coming and interviewing, like when candidates interview with our clients, we always tell them about the company. But if you say, oh, I don't know anything about your company, it just automatically will likely disqualify you from that opportunity. So sounds like common sense, but just wanted to reinforce it because it has happened where people have not done the due diligence research on the company they're interviewing with. So I'm sure you guys have heard about the STAR technique, but if not, I do want to just reinforce on how this is very beneficial when you're dealing with answering questions. So the STAR technique is really just a 4-step way, and some people actually remove the T part and just say a SAR just to make the answers more concise. But basically, this is best used in behavioral questions where they ask you, like, tell me about a situation where maybe you didn't get along with a coworker, and how did you deal with that? How did you deal with a disgruntled customer? How did you deal with a time when you didn't agree with your manager's approach on dealing with a situation, right? So in your response, you want to paint a picture to the person that's interviewing you, to the interviewer. So you tell them about the situation. So you introduce the situation and provide a little bit of context as to what you're talking about. Describe the task that needed to be done. And then next you will talk about what action items you took to deal with that situation or that task, and what were the results out of that. So just answering the question in that 3 or 4 step approach will allow you to give not only a fluid answer, but also just allow you to speak like if you have experienced it, right? Like if you're just like if someone says, well, how did you handle a tough customer? Well, I just spoke with them and everything was okay. And yeah, like that's not a strong answer, like obviously, but what we want to know is tell us about a time. Like, so saying instead, like, so one day when we were when our store was about to close, we had a customer come in with a return. That's a situation. They wanted to make sure that they sent it back to, they returned the equipment today because they needed it for tomorrow or something like that, right? So that's describing the task. What action item did you take? Despite them being disgruntled, I told them to come to the back office, showed them a couple of options of exchange items that they could use. The result, the customer was happy. They came back several times, and now we've got a repeat customer. So again, just providing a little bit more context, because that also shows who you are as a person. And that makes the interviewer be like, okay, great, I want to work with somebody like this or not, because of how they deal with certain situations and tasks. But next, I will also talk about preparing your own questions. So as much as they're interviewing you, an interview is also your opportunity to get to know the company too. So as much as you want to work for them, you also want to make sure that they're the right fit for you. So some great questions that you can ask is, can you describe your company culture? That type of question just makes you seem like if you're really interested, not only in the role, but also the team that you're going to be working with. Another great question is this a new position or am I replacing someone? If the latter, why did the person leave? So getting insight on why the person left. So is this a high turnover job? Because as much as you want to get a job, you want to make sure you're getting the right job too, because you don't want it to be a revolving door of different opportunities, and then your resume starts looking like you're the one who doesn't screen out for jobs, as opposed to them like letting you go from different positions or you leaving different positions because they're not good work environments. So really understand why it is that you're going into a role, and understand if that's a good fit for you. And then also another really great question, what does success look like in this role? This is good because you want to ensure that there's alignment between you and what the interviewer is expecting of you. This will just allow for a more successful career and for you to keep track of your own KPIs, your own personal deliverables, and making sure that you go in understanding what exactly the role entails. So again, adding on to this, other questions that you can ask is, why is this position open? What kind of performance benchmarks do you look for? What is the company culture like, which is stated in the last slide? And what traits do I need to succeed in this position? So again, just really reinforcing your interest in the role, as well as asking like broader questions just to showcase that, you know, you've done your research on the company. So one thing that I personally advise some of my candidates to do is perhaps like reach out to, like, say for instance, if you are interested in the not-for-profit sector, you can maybe ask like, hey, so what made you choose this not-for-profit over other not-for-profits? Like, what was it that really resonated with you, type of thing. So just making sure that it's also a little bit personal is a great way to ask questions. And from an interviewer's perspective, like, they want to be able to showcase and show off why it's a great company to work for. So you can build on that and build conversation just from asking questions. So again, helping your recruiter help you. So as I mentioned earlier on, it's really important not only for us to be helping you, but you also need to, be helping us to help you. So keep your recruiter updated. That means letting us know like, hey, listen, Bibiana, I just interviewed at, a construction company. And maybe if I wasn't looking at construction companies, I'm like, oh, well, maybe John's into construction. So let's find other construction mandates for them, right? So just having that open relationship and open conversation just helps as we go through the process of finding you a job, and just ensures that we're all on the same page, because we've got a mutual end goal, which is to find you individually jobs. After the interview, follow up with your recruiter just to let them know how you felt about the role. Like, if you felt like, listen, that's not a kind of company that I want to work with, let your recruiter know that. Then that way we're not putting you up for roles that are similar to that, right? So I say a good level of transparency, a healthy level of transparency allows for a healthy relationship and a more likability of us placing you sooner. And then of course, just saying thank you. So if you can send a thank you letter to the person that was interviewing you, thank you email to the person that was interviewing you, that would be a good way just to kind of put a bow on the conversation. And you can also ask your recruiter, like, hey, is it okay if I send a thank you email, or can I send you a thank you email to send the client, depending on what the communication is between the recruiter, you, and the client. Also, a thank you note is a good way to just reinforce maybe some points that you really enjoyed during the interview. Like, I really find it neat that you guys are investing in new technology, which is the technology I used in my prior role. So whatever key takeaways are that you got from the interview, you can include it in your thank you note. And that way it just reinforces your interest, and also reinforces that you were aligned with the position that you're looking for. And this is applicable not only when you're working with a recruiter, but also when you're applying for jobs on your own. So there's also still tons of remote capable jobs. As I mentioned, Robert Half, we do have remote positions, but as the world is opening up a lot more, thank goodness, we're finding that the remote capable jobs are slowly reducing. But these are a few websites, and if you want, you can take a screenshot, or I can go back to the slide if you want. But Flex Jobs, AngelList, Remotive, they all have remote capable jobs. So even if you're looking to, again, we're not affiliated with these entities or these websites, but perhaps if you're looking for a job in the meantime, maybe they're open to roles for somebody that can work completely remotely from outside of Canada. However, in our case, we can only work with you once you're in Canada. There's also tons of different resources that Robert Half offers for different job hunters. So a salary guide, which I would say is one of our most explosive tools. If you're a job hunter, a job seeker, wanting to see what the market is like, make sure that you're looking at salary guides, because you need to understand what your role, what the roles you're looking for pay. So the salary guide is a good way for you to get insight on like trends. Or maybe if, say for instance, you're like, hey, back home I was a non-designated accountant, but I do want more earning potential. You can see what types of roles make the type of money that you're looking for, and make sure you're doing like a CPA so that you can get to that salary band. So making sure that you're well equipped with a salary guide and knowing the salary ranges within the different region that you're in is very beneficial. It also helps when you're setting your expectations with us as recruiters. Like, so I'm looking for a financial analyst role. I am designated, so I'm looking for anywhere between 80 to 100K, right? So again, and that is per the salary guide. So that's not asking for a lot of money type of thing. The next thing, as I mentioned earlier, we do have our online training called Skillsport, and this is made available to any of the candidates or any people that are signed up with Robert Half. And if you want, you can just ask your recruiter, hey, listen, I want to strengthen my Excel skills, or I want to just retest, my Sage 50 experience. Do you mind giving me access to Skillsport or the online training? And we're able to do that. And then next, also the workplace research and articles. So Robert Half, we do tons of different research through the year on workplace trends, whether it's 4-day work weeks. Like during the pandemic, I know a lot of clients were relying on our research just to get an understanding of what employees are looking for, as well as what the trends are with other companies. So just being well versed on different market trends when it comes to roles in your sector, in your industry, or just roles that you're looking for is definitely very beneficial. So the last point that I want to make is, as much as you are a job seeker, unemployment in Canada is extremely low. So I would say within the accounting and finance field, unemployment is probably like under 4%, if I'm not mistaken. That's what it was a couple of months ago. So when you think about it, that is extremely low. So you guys as candidates, and not only just in accounting and finance, in different fields across the board, you're in the driver's seat. So making sure that we know what you're looking for and keeping us abreast on what you're wanting. Don't be afraid to ask for what you deserve, because we're here to support that. And as long as you can back it up with your education and your experience, we're here to accommodate that. And then finally, this is my information. So please feel, and I just noticed, Shaw, that actually the first slide did have my last name with an L at the end. So make sure, if you haven't already, feel free to add me on LinkedIn, and this is my email address so you can connect with me. I do want to say, as much as I do want to respond to everyone's emails, I don't always have that much time. So if you can, maybe put G-TAC or follow up again if I haven't got back to you, because as I mentioned, I get tons of emails and tons of correspondence with different candidates, and I want to be sure to help you and support you as much as I can, even past this presentation. And that is it. I really want to thank you guys all for your time. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those right now.
Wow. Thank you, Bibiana. I really, that was absolutely another masterpiece, I have to say. Now, for those of you that has gone through some coaching with me before, or going through coaching with me with G-TAC now, if there's one thing I can say though, is if you guys did notice that energy level that Bibiana is trying to convey in her voice when she presented, the level of confidence, the passion, it was all on display in the I would say it, if there's a word, if people have to say perfection, I think that would be it in terms of how you want to present yourself in an interview. This is absolutely amazing. But what's really funny is, Bibiana, is a lot of people they don't have the concept. For example, I often see clients where we have an online meeting where it's 9:47 a.m. here in Canada, but it could be like 9:47 p.m. there, or sometimes in the evening, and you'll see that they come online and where they're in a very comfortable house, like a night attire, whatever, and they're like you said, they're on their bed, or sometimes they just use the phone.
Yeah.
All this, it's actually, all these it might be comfortable to you, but it does not display a very, very professional image, correct?
Oh, 100%. And just adding on that, Shaw, like from the second you get that first interaction with any recruiting firm or any recruiter for a job, they're assessing you. So from the email that you send to them, that, the background that you have, it's all part of the assessment process. So you have to really make sure that it's top tier and you're presenting yourself in the best light possible, because you don't want something that minute to, ruin your opportunity of getting a great job.
It's amazing, and I'm not sure if you will support this staff, but this is I mean, we talk to hundreds of recruiters, and we always ask them about like what do you think about the video display? We call it nonverbal communication, meaning that your visual image that they have on the candidate, and this is a pretty I guess it's a pretty a shocking reality, I would say.
Oh,
About
100%.
67% of the recruiters said that within the first 5 seconds looking at our candidate, they already made up their mind whether if this is going to be the right candidate before the candidate even opened his or her mouth.
Exactly. 100%. Honestly, I'm surprised that number isn't higher.
Yeah, well, maybe some people are trying to be politically correct. Anyway, so
Yeah,
let's go
exactly.
to some
That's true.
questions here. Yeah, and we have quite a bit of questions now. I also
perfect.
have a lot of you actually put out a statement that I have 10 years of accounting experience, and I'm new here, I'm there. Yeah, that's great. It's nice that you state your current status, but that is not a question. So the best is to take this opportunity. Bibiana is extremely busy. You are extremely lucky that she's here to answer your question in person. So please take advantage of it. And then we still have another 11 minutes. So I'm going to start with some of the questions here. Currently, with all these high inflation, people are doing layoffs and blah, 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 all these things. What is the market for accounting right now? And who in particular are hiring?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the great thing about accounting is there's always a market for accounting. So even when these mass layoffs are taking place, I find more often it's administrative roles that are more affected than, say, our core accounting roles. Who's hiring? Who isn't hiring is probably an easier question. So the government's, well, we don't work with the federal government, but I do know that they're hiring. Our clients, like right now, I've got 15 roles in my department that are accounting roles. So that's only me. Across our branch, we have over 95 roles. So there's a lot of hiring. It's just more so, what are you applying for, right? So again, in those cases, depending on what your background is, like I would say, if you've worked in a not-for-profit back home, apply to not-for-profits. That's an easy in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so if I'm new to Canada, how do I make this career planning? Like, should I target the big firms, or should I go with a small firm? Like, how is the career outlook on that? So what's your opinion?
Yeah, so again, so that's a very big question, and I would have to look at a resume to give a more detailed opinion on that. But say, for instance, if I'm from Zambia, so if I was moving here from Zambia and I worked at KPMG back home, I would try to apply for KPMG here in Canada, just because most times, like, firms that you've worked with back home are more open to hiring newer Canadians, because the work ethic or the work requirements are the same no matter whether you're in Zambia or here in Canada. So depending on what your background is. However, if you worked for a small firm back home, I wouldn't suggest you should apply for big accounting firms here in Canada, because they might not know what that is, right? And in that case, you might want to look at smaller accounting firms. So the number one thing that I would probably recommend is that looking at what your like the experience of the industry from back home and looking at similar industries here in Canada is an easy way to showcase transferable skills.
Okay.
Yes.
This question is actually a pretty good question. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the queue here. But
okay.
for She says, well, thank you for the presentation about asking questions to employers after towards the end of the interview. But is it that odd asking? Well, I think what she's trying to say is that is it okay to ask a question about whether if they have an opportunity to support staff with offering study privilege? I guess tuition subsidy.
Okay, so I would say for the first couple of interviews, like say hypothetically, if this company's got 3 rounds of interviews, avoid anything to do with compensation or benefits in those first rounds, because you don't want to come in and feel like the only thing you're looking to do is find a company that can pay for your school, right? So is it possible? Yes, maybe towards the end, I would say like, so what are the benefits or what are the expectations looking like for somebody that's in an educational program? Like say, for instance, I'm doing my CHIRP at the moment. So if I was to look for a job, maybe I want a company that would pay for my CHIRP. So maybe on the third interview, I would say, so part of my professional development is finishing my CHIRP. Is that something that this organization covers? So it's the way in which you ask it, just so that it's not like, hey, so will you pay for my tuition versus this is what I'm planning to do. What can this company do to help me in this area? I hope that answers the question, Cisse.
Yeah, well, chirp is actually okay, but imagine your CPA. You're gonna ask them, "Are you gonna pay for my annual?"
Yeah, and you know what the thing is, most companies these days, they do have a professional development aspect of their benefits, right? So totally fine. Like towards like if you're explaining it like, hey, I'm doing my CPA, so I really would be interested in a company covering that. Is that something that you guys offer? But don't do that on the first interview.
Yeah, no, definitely
Yes.
not in the first interview.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, the do's and don'ts. Yeah, definitely not in the first interview. But there's also other ways that you can ask those questions in a more indirect but yet professional, yet very, very respectful way. So just remember that.
100%.
Here it goes. This is a very hot topic right now.
Oh, wow.
Now that Chat GPT is getting really popular and more powerful as we move forward, would it replace accountant more, I guess, say entry level, or like would it affect some jobs that currently opening for accountants, like whether it's entry level, whether would it replace some of the jobs in the accounting field?
Yeah, wow, definitely a very hot topic. My sister is in payroll, so every day she's like, not another Chat GPT upgrade. So yes, and I do understand that natural inclination to have hesitation or like feel fear that your jobs will be taken over by all of this technology that we have. But from my understanding and from what I'm seeing is that all of these things are just here to support the human function, right? So as much as what I'm seeing now though is where before you had accountants doing bookkeeping and books, people are utilizing, they want your efforts to be used on brain power activities. So where something like ChatGPT maybe can help with more of the automated processes, they want individuals to be thinkers, right? That's why communication is so big in interviewing, because past entering numbers into a system, what more can you do, right? Past automated things, what more can you do? So do I think it will completely, eradicate jobs? Absolutely not, because the government will have a huger problem in their hands. But I definitely think the way in which jobs are being viewed or how companies are hiring will change, whereas they want more thinkers as opposed to just people that will put their head down and do.
Yeah, I mean, people always say that, like, this automation is gonna replace human. This is
Yeah.
But as far as we know, even though the automation or technology does replace certain human part, but it also develop other industry where you need the other job. So it's such I'm not sure how where Chat GPT is going to go, but certainly it is something that we are aware of in terms of, especially in technology side, where instead of hiring 5 entry-level software developer, now maybe they're only hiring 2.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
100%.
and then
Exactly.
and they're using the AI to help them do the work because that is a
Right.
reality. But we
We'll cross that.
will move on. Yeah. So
Exactly. And then it's just a reinforcement that your own technology knowledge should also be strengthened, right? So, like, if
yeah,
you're not good at Excel and you want to be in accounting, make sure you're strong in Excel and dealing with big data so you can help with decision-making purposes, right? So that's why it's important to understand market trends to see what you should be strengthening, and, stay competitive and marketable as a candidate.
perfect. Yeah, here's a question from Michelle. She just arrived here 2 months ago, arrived in Canada 2 months ago,
Nice. Welcome,
and
Michelle.
then she downloaded the Robert Half app, but she couldn't have it. She doesn't have any access to a job offer. So that's her comment. Then her question is it possible to have a part-time job as an accountant and work at home 100%?
So work from home, honestly, I feel like it is reducing quite significantly. I'm seeing more hybrid setup. So working from home 100%, I'm sure the remote capable websites that I shared, they may have those 100% remote roles, but most of the roles I'm seeing are hybrid in nature. And what was the first part of the question? Sorry, I think I missed that, Sean.
She downloaded the Robert Half app, but she couldn't
Yeah.
have any. She doesn't have any access to jobs.
Okay. Yeah, so you should have access to jobs that are posted. Maybe you're not getting calls. And Michelle, I might say, and I don't know, maybe send your resume directly to me. It could be a resume issue being screened out because maybe could be something around that. But definitely send me over your resume and I can connect. I can send it over to the right people, or if it's with my team, I'll definitely connect with you because you're here.
Okay. Question from Suleiman is he or she is a recent graduate from Algonquin College's business accounting diploma. How can Suleiman apply for accounting jobs through Robert Half?
Okay, so my first question would be, Solomon, if you did any co-ops, make sure that that's written on your resume. If you don't, depending on what experience you have, it's so funny, we were having this discussion. So the struggle we have with people that are new graduates is our clients are paying a fee for candidates that they're hiring through us. So 9 times out of 10, they do want somebody that's got experience even before they enter the job market, right? So that would be done through a co-op or something like that. So maybe looking at entry-level jobs, and depending on how your resume is structured, you can talk about maybe the courses you took. If you got great grades, you can talk about that, just so that you can show your accounting capabilities. And then also maybe reaching out to, so our formerly known Account Temps division, our contract team focuses on roles that are for more entry-level positions. So if you perhaps do a test, like a skills assessment test, and they figure out that you're really strong in accounting, despite you not having the experience, we might be able to market your profile. So if you're in Ottawa, definitely send over your resume to me.
Okay, good. Is a CPA a must to work in the accounting field?
So it's not a must, it's a very big nice to have. So the thing with a CPA is that it will allow you to elevate to different career stages. For non-designated people, unfortunately, it's almost like a glass ceiling that you're hitting, right? Because there's like if a client is picking between a designated controller and non-designated, they're just more likely going to get to be inclined to pick the designated person because of signing capabilities and educational development that they're constantly doing that non-designated people don't have to do. So is it a must? No, but it will be more of a struggle getting those senior level positions, or you might find yourself not being as competitive as the people that you're up against for different roles.
Okay. Bibiana, how are you doing on time? Because we still have, can you extend a few more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I could definitely do like 10 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to end at 10:10. So, well, first of all, before we continue, I just want to remind everyone is in G-TAC's accounting class will start on May 1st, Monday, May 1st. And what we usually do is these our graduates are usually pretty well received by Robert Half. So please, if you're interested, please enroll in that program, and then you can contact Song, song.g@g-tac.ca. So here's a question for you. When will Robert Half help us do salary negotiation?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So prior to us, when we initially meet, we will ask you what your salary expectations are. And then once we get to a offer stage, we will handle and help you handle the salary negotiation. So hypothetically, if you're like, hey, I'm looking to make 65,000 and the client offers you 60K, Robert Half will try and help like, hey, can we do a sign-on bonus and negotiate so we can get up to that 65,000? And just try and make it work so that you're happy as a candidate, and obviously the client wants to retain you. So over that 5K, I'm sure we can make something happen.
Okay. And when we see a job on Robert, it says right here, what are the advantages applying through Robert Half versus applying directly through company's website?
Yeah, so I would say the advantages are like hypothetically, if we're working on a role, it's only once it gets to the submission stage, right? So if I'm submitting people for controller opportunity, I'm picking my top 4 people, right? When you're applying on your own, you're one of 500 people. So chances are you might be getting screened out from those opportunities by the company itself, just because, they're also relying on recruiting firms. And sometimes people post jobs, but they rely more on recruiting firms because the same candidates are essentially applying it to some degree, right? There's only so many accountants out there. So we're able to showcase why your skill set is most relevant for those roles. And especially I find with newer Canadians, getting that buy-in where we're explaining to our client, like, hey, listen, although they're from Zambia, this is what's their transferable experiences. So just being able to tell more of your story even before you enter the interview room, we find is very beneficial for our candidates.
Okay.
Yes.
But what about marketing role? We talk about accounting quite often now. So what about marketing roles? Does Robert Half help people with a marketing background?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have we've got our creative group division that's based in the GTA. I think we've got one in Calgary and in our bigger markets. So yes, and those teams focus more on marketing roles, like purely marketing roles. Here in Ottawa, depending on where you're planning on arriving, here in Ottawa, we do have our office team division deals with administrative, like marketing type roles. So anything within an office setting, Robert Half is likely going to place. Okay. So if you work like on construction, like out on the field, like that's not too much of what we do. We're not a technical firm.
Okay, good. And then if you have any advice for newcomers, if they want to get into the accounting field, besides obviously G-TAC's accounting course, do you have any advice and like any desirable certificate or diploma program that people should consider?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, so besides, obviously, as you said, G-TAC is a great resource, just to like even the small business accounting, like things like that, to get more familiar with the Canadian market is great. In general, I would say focusing on like maybe it could be different accounting softwares. So besides doing accounting certification, maybe you can do like a QuickBooks online course. Then that way you already have some of the skills that our clients are looking for as you're sending in your resume.
Perfect.
Does that answer?
Well, you know what? No, that will be the answer that I would give as well.
Yeah.
Because I always, I don't know if you will agree with me. In my professional opinion, finding a job and obtaining certificate diploma is a two different thing.
Yes.
It's you find a job, and then after you get the job, then you can talk about, because getting a diploma or certificate is something that you can do concurrently after you have a job.
100%. Yes, right? Exactly. 100%. And like, I know sometimes people over focus on getting certifications, but not as much on getting a job. Like if you've got a million certifications, but no work experience, you're still not going to get a job, right? So it's kind of finding that healthy balance between the two. You have to have that working experience.
Oh my God, I have to say something about some of our listeners. They're sharp. They are sharp. They already found my
I love
email,
it.
and somebody already sent me a LinkedIn request. You guys are sharp. Good
Yes.
stuff. Okay. In terms of the, you mentioned that Robert Half does have online training skills port.
Mhm.
Would there be any certificates from that? And also, do I need to do an English test before taking on those
Yeah, so
trainings?
no, we don't, it's not like a certification program. I would say it's more like an upskills, like skill strengthening, portal, right? So if you're like feeling like your Excel isn't as strong as you want it to, there's like module trainings, like, you know, Excel for beginners, but you're not going to get a certification. Like I think G-TAC offers certifications once you do their program. So not so much with Robert Half. Ours are just more so for people to strengthen skills that they already have or get a refresher type of thing.
Okay, perfect,
Yes.
perfect. So we are running late on time here. So yeah, I'm getting, wow, yeah, this is that we have sharp listener this morning. I tell you, they must be all sharp accountants. Anyway, I am for those of you that send me an email, just because of your creativity, I will get back to you. Just give me obviously I cannot reply to your email now because I'm hosting this webinar with Bibiana. So
Yeah.
Bibiana, for the next 30 to 60 seconds, can you
Yes.
close today's webinar?
Yes, absolutely. So again, thank you so much to everybody here. As Shaw said, honestly, I also saw a couple of invites on LinkedIn. I love initiatives. So thank you so much for taking the initiative and for being here. And you being here, you're already ahead of the competition and people you're going up against when you join the job search, right? So utilize a recruiting firm as much as possible. I'm here to support as much as possible, but please make sure that you're taking a proactive approach. Send me a LinkedIn message, and hopefully we'll be getting you here soon and finding you great jobs.
Thank you, Bibiana. On behalf of
Thank you so
everyone
much.
at G-TAC and all our listener, I want to thank you for your time because I know you're extremely busy. So we're going to let you get going with carry on with your day. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to see you in our webinar next week. Have a good
Absolutely.
week. Okay.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.